Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about third conjugation verbs. Before we talk about third conjugation verbs, we need to review first and second conjugation verbs a little bit. First conjugation verbs are verbs whose second principal part ends in a long ARE. That is the second vocabulary form, so amo, amare, amawi, amatum. That second principal part, which is called the infinitive form, ends in a long ARE. That long A before the RE is called the connecting vowel. So first conjugation verbs are verbs like amare, you see the long ARE, laborare, portare. Those are all first conjugation verbs. Second conjugation verbs, on the other hand, end in a long ERE in the second principal part. Words like videre, tenere, habere. The long E is the connecting vowel. Third conjugation verbs look similar to second conjugation verbs, but their second principal part, their second vocabulary form, ends in a short ERE. Now that short E is weak and it changes when you add endings to it. That's what makes it different from the second conjugation. So it's kind of like the BE future tense marker, which changes to bo, bis, bit, bimis, bitis, bunt. You may have forgotten that the actual tense marker for the future tense is BE, but that's what it is. We just never see that short E because when you add endings, it changes. When you add an O, the O eats the E. When you add an S or a T or a mus or a tis, the E changes to a short I. And for some reason, when you add NT, the E changes to a short U. Why? I don't know. These are just the changes that take place when you add endings to a word with a short E at the end of its stem. So, in the present tense, the third conjugation verbs are actually going to follow the same pattern as we saw with the future tense marker. So, take off the B of the future tense, bo, bis, bit, and you essentially have the endings for the present tense of the third conjugation. The imperfect tense of the third conjugation will look exactly like second conjugation verbs because the short E lengthens to a long E. And then last, the future tense is the strangest. It is irregular, or at least it's not like the future tense forms that we've learned so far. It doesn't use the BE tense marker. It's different, so we'll just have to memorize it. We're going to use the word ducere, which means to lead, for our third conjugation chant. We're going to memorize the forms of the third conjugation with this verb. The easiest thing to do is to just memorize it and to know that all other third conjugation verbs follow the exact same pattern. Now, this means, of course, that you will have to memorize the second principal part of all your verbs in order to know if they are first, second, or third conjugation, which you should already be doing. You should always memorize all the principal parts, all the vocabulary forms every time you get a new verb. Okay, so let's take a look at the third conjugation verb, ducere. Here it is with all of its forms. You see the present, the imperfect, and the future tense. The present tense and the imperfect tense should look very familiar. They're very similar to what we've learned for first and second conjugation. But you'll notice that the future tense is entirely different. You still have s, t, mus, tis, und, but what comes before those is a bit different. So let's start with the present tense. Duco, ducis, ducit, ducimus, ducitus, ducunt. Now the imperfect tense. Ducebam, ducebas, ducebat, ducebamus, ducebatus, ducebant. You'll notice it looks exactly like the second conjugation verb. Finally, the future tense. This is the one that is different, so irregular. No bo, bis, bit. You'll just have to memorize this. Ducam, ducase, duquet, ducamus, ducatus, ducant. Now that last form is particularly difficult because it's easy to confuse with the third person plural of the present tense, ducant. The difference is one single letter. And we're used to seeing that UNT with bo, bis, bit, bimis, bitis, bunt. So you might be tempted to think that the present tense third person plural is actually a future tense. But the future tense form is going to end in ENT for all third conjugation verbs. So take a good look at it. Work on this particular chant. Memorize the whole thing. If you need to, go back and take a look at your verbs that you've already learned, taking note of the principal parts, particularly the second principal part. All the verbs in your vocabulary list for this chapter are third conjugation verbs. All of them are going to follow this exact same pattern. Hope this is helpful. See you next time.